over the redaction process here. And then now that we're seeing this extend to the release of the names and how that is being handled by the Justice Department.
Strong words from Macy there. Let me go back to the UK because Max, Vince Cable, who was a former business secretary, he's adding his voice, right, in terms of the investigation, calling for further investigation into Andrew Mountbatten.
Yes,
what
so
is he,
there's already one police investigation into his role as an envoy and leaking arguably market-sensitive information to Epstein. Now, Vince Cable is calling for corruption investigation into some other sensitive government documents that were as well apparently forwarded to Epstein by Andrew when he was Prince Andrew, but also this trade envoy, which is a government position where you do get privileged access to market, internal reports, and it appears from the Epstein files that he was just forwarding them. He has always denied any wrongdoing, but there are now potentially 2 criminal investigations into Andrew. And this is the challenge for the monarchy because the story just keeps coming back. And these are very complex investigations. They'll take months, if not years, to conclude. And the whole time, questions being asked what the monarchy knew and whether or not there are wider associations with Epstein. We don't see any evidence of that, but just they can't do their job as long as this is the topic people are talking about.
Very briefly, what have we heard from the monarchy? We've had
the
very
monarchy,
little, right?
So they consistently say we don't represent Andrew anymore and can't speak for him, which is a bit of a challenging argument because at the time he was very much part of the working monarchy. So they would have been responsible for him at that time.
New today, the Justice Department is explaining why some of the Epstein files released have included so many redactions. In a letter sent to Congress yesterday, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi lists why some names, even whole pages, have been shielded from public view, specifically mentioning privileged attorney-client communications and documents that show deliberative process as some of the reasons why. But the Republican who led the charge to force the release of the file says he's not satisfied with that explanation, and more documents need to be released.
I know the DOJ wants to say they're done with this document production. The problem is they've taken down documents before we were able to go over to the DOJ and look at the unredacted versions. They took down some of the most significant documents, 2 of them involving Virginia Giuffre's case and other things. The picture of Epstein in a room where it's got CIA written on the boxes, that's been taken down. We want to be able to look at all these files. They can't keep those documents down after they've already produced them.
All right, let's discuss more now with former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. And Nima, thank you so much for being here. I mean, what do you think is going on here?
I think that the members of Congress should file a lawsuit to compel the DOJ to produce these documents. We know from Todd Blanche, the Epstein files consist of approximately 6 million pages of documents, and they've only produced about 3.5 million. So I find it hard to believe that more than 2 million pages are privileged. And even when members of Congress have gone to the Department of Justice to review some of the redacted documents, they have found redactions that appear on their face to be excessive, and the DOJ has produced unredacted or less redacted versions.
And then this letter from the Justice Department also lists hundreds of prominent people that it considers to be, quote, politically exposed in the Epstein files, including names of presidents, celebrities, business leaders, and government officials. But the DOJ didn't give any context or detail as to why the names were included. And of course, then that too is drawing a lot of bipartisan pushback. Democrat Ro Khanna, who co-sponsored the bill forcing the release of the file, says the DOJ is muddying the waters. Republican Nancy Mace says the DOJ even left out some names altogether. So you said Congress should file a lawsuit, but in the meantime, what kind of recourse does it have to force DOJ to comply with what the law says?
Congress can hold hearings. We saw how that went with Pam Bondi last week. Certainly didn't go well. And of course, there's always the possibility of impeachment proceedings as well. I think what the DOJ should do is just comply with the law. And Fred, you and I have talked about this for months now. I don't understand why they're naming the names. Let the public decide, let the American people do their own analysis after you produce, by you being the Department of Justice, the entirety of the Epstein files. Now, of course, obviously some of those individuals named, they have suffered political fallout. They've had to resign positions, many high profile individuals. And it's just goes to show how well connected Jeffrey Epstein was to people all over the world, the highest positions in government and in the private sector.
Right. But then all these inconsistencies only raises more curiosity and then allows people to say, what is being hidden here? What is it that you don't want people to see? Epstein survivor Liz Stein told CNN earlier today that she sees this whole release as a starting point, not an ending point. Listen.
The most recent release of files is definitely not an ending, but it's a starting point for us. You know, every page that I've looked at has some kind of investigative lead. So I think that this should be the beginning of an investigation into these crimes, and we haven't seen that yet.
So do you see this as leading into new investigations?
Well, I hope so. What the Department of Justice has done is really an insult to the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, obviously, we don't know if there are other people involved in the sex abuse, but there are a lot of people who believe that there are other rich and powerful men that helped or participated in the sex abuse with Jeffrey Epstein. And the Department of Justice's lack of transparency, it hurts the public trust, and it adds fuel to the fire of these conspiracy theories and folks who believe that this is a government cover-up. So I think in the interest of transparency and frankly, just following the law, the Department of Justice needs to do better. They haven't finished the job.
All right, a CNN investigation discovered several unredacted videos of young women among the millions of files related to Jeffrey Epstein released by the Justice Department. CNN senior national enterprise correspondent MJ Lee has the story.
Unredacted videos of young women that CNN has censored here are among the millions of Jeffrey Epstein-related files released by the Justice Department. An extensive CNN review of the Epstein files